when we understand who we are, then we understand the process in which we are meant to co-create in, which means as feminine leaders, we are to go internal before we go external.
Mm-hmm.
And when we are doing and pushing and striving and trying to make it happen
Yes.
without going internal first, we are literally overriding and bypassing our system and any potential um, internal wounding or unconscious crippling beliefs, programming, conditioning that does not want to be seen or doesn't want to be known or heard or is afraid of attack.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Living Room Wisdom, where your story is your glory. I am so thrilled for this interview today on so many levels, and let me tell you why. The first one is that I'm a bit of a recovering overachiever perfectionist, which is why you're the women I serve. Yeah, you, because you're just like me. And with that said, the last 5 seasons of my podcast has been like beautifully produced in a living room space or in a studio space. And there's been so many incredible women that I've wanted to interview, so much so that 4 of my seasons I traveled to do the interviews, traveled to different cities, including Miami and Atlanta and LA. But you know what? I'm in a much simpler phase, a phase of like ease and grace and flow and alignment. And I just thought to myself this season, like, what's the worst thing that could happen if I started to do virtual interviews? And so I'm so thrilled for today because I met this amazing woman that I'm going to introduce to you. I want to say last year sometime. I heard her on a podcast interview and I was like, she is my people. All right. So Cassandra Austin-McDonald is a transformational mentor, certified trauma-aware nervous system practitioner. Wow, a mouthful. And we're going to have her explain that in a moment. But what I love about her is that she's guiding feminine leaders to embody the supernatural woman within. And she wants them to experience supernatural success in life, love, and leadership. So we're going to hop right in. Welcome, 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 Cassandra. I'm so happy we are finally connecting in this way.
Yes, me too. Thank you so much for having me. And it's a
Yeah.
pleasure to be here and connect with your audience and to just riff and have some fun here.
Yes, awesome. And so, listen, I want to start with this because when we got on before we started recording, you said that you say no to a lot of podcast interviews and that this felt aligned and that you're
Mhm.
in a season of alignment. And so
Yeah.
am I. We have that in common. But I'd love to know why you said yes. What felt aligned about this space?
I would say the first thing is the internal. And so that internal nudge of a yes and listening to that and then following that internal nudge with the external of okay, so what is this about? What is her platform about? Who are the people that she's serving? Who is she? What is she about? What does she embody?
Mhm.
And then that just solidifies that yes, so that I now step from the internal unseen realms into the physical realm and take action with the acceptance of the invitation. So for me, alignment is first internal before it's external. We're looking at do I feel a yes in my spirit? Do I feel a yes internally? And then we go external and go from there.
And I'm assuming this is what you walk your women through.
Oh yeah.
One of the many things that you work with women on, which I love because it actually sounds like you've sort of systematized uh, getting into alignment. Would that be accurate?
I like to look at it more like a form of artistry. I consider myself a transformational artist, and in part because I have a holistic approach in doing this type of work, looking at all aspects of womanhood, mind, body, soul, uh, heart, emotions. but also the different approaches and the modalities that I bring forward. And so I'm very intuitive and discerning in how I approach the work, and it's customized if I work with people privately and one-on-one, and in group spaces, obviously it's curated for the group. But it's more like an artistry where over time you cultivate the skill, such as a painter, they cultivate the skill of using a paintbrush and the amount of pressure that they use and what colors tonify best with other colors. And so I see it like artistry where I'm like having this fun in the unseen supernatural realms of transformation.
I love that. It's very beautifully articulated. And in one of my, like, just to tie this in one of my podcast interviews that I did for this season, we talked about creativity. And I was speaking with someone who is an actual artist in many realms, an artist and alchemist is what I call her, because he brings her artistry into so many things. But one of the things that we were just chatting in the conversation, and all of us just had like this realization, is that creativity is actually a core skill or a core resource for moving through almost anything in life as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so I
Oh,
love
yeah.
that you talk about your work in regard to artistry, because a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people don't consider themselves artists,
Mm.
right? Or
I find
creative.
that Well, I find that interesting that they wouldn't because, and I draw from different sacred texts and wisdom traditions, but there's scripture that talks about we were created in the image of the creator, and creator is creative by nature. So why would we not be creative by nature also? So I
Woo!
find that
Say
fascinating
it.
that people
Yes.
don't connect with that.
Yeah, that gave me chills because I believe you know that one of the 6 steps in my Anatomy of Abundance framework is sacred self-care. And I
Mm,
speak to that from the perspective of we are created in divine's image, therefore we are divine. So
yeah.
treat yourself mind, body, spirit, and financially in a way that you would the divine. Honor yourself as you would the divine. So the way you said it, it was kind of the same thing, but a lot more articulate, a lot more
Oh,
beautiful.
thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that.
It's one of the many things that we just connect on. And I remember our first conversation, and we were having a conversation about you potentially joining me as a facilitator at my
Yeah.
Thailand retreat for Pure
Mhm.
Abundance. And I just remember feeling like, ah, ah, like all these hits and like chills. And I was like, I love this woman, and I'm going to find a way for us to play together. So here we are, finally.
I love it. I love how it always works out. It always
Oh,
works out.
it's meant to be. It's divine time and it's synchronicity. It's just like, I think that for where we're at in the world right now, and for the call, the pull that's happening for us as women to really step into our power, stop settling, and like own our voice and be a stance and a disruption. Um,
Mhm.
we're the ones leading that charge, right? We get to model
I
what that
agree.
looks like together.
I agree. And I
Yeah.
find leadership is such a sacred responsibility that we get to hold with reverence because not everyone has the gift of leadership. People want to be a leader or they try to pretend that they're a leader. But to me, there's a quality of leadership
Mhm.
that requires cultivation and devotion. And I see that in you, which is why coming here was a yes.
Yeah.
That embodiment, that's really, really important in leadership. And I think that I prophesized a few years ago that real leaders are rising. And God was revealing to me that there was this shift happening where the leaders who were playing and pretending, people are discerning now. People are more savvy with what they see on the internet and out in the world. And so a lot of the trickery and the manipulation and the things that used to set a lot of women back or get them caught up, they're not falling for it anymore. So I think a lot of us who have been natural born leaders since we came out of our mother's wombs are, getting out there more, being more seen, getting our voices heard, and getting the work that we've been called and placed to do on this planet out there so that we can create this new earth that we've been called to create.
Yeah, you said that very well. And I would add to that that I believe that the most embodied leaders don't actually understand or own that they're leaders right away,
Yeah,
right? The ones
exactly.
that are out there performing and, doing the things that make them look like a leader are not necessarily leaders by birthright, right?
Hmm.
Those of us
Hmm.
that I feel have been called to leadership sometimes do it kicking and screaming.
Oh,
I'll speak for
now we're talking my language.
myself, yo, because as much as I am visible and have been visible in my career over the last 30 plus years, there's still this portion of me that nobody knew I was hiding
Oh yeah,
and that
yeah.
I was
It's very
settling
real for,
in
yeah,
areas
it's very
where I
real
was
for
settling.
feminine leaders.
And I would probably not admit that because I would justify it. Be like, oh, well,
Mm-hmm.
I'm out there, I'm marketing myself, I'm speaking, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. But I realized recently, within like the last 5 or 6 months, that there were a lot of tricky ways that I was settling, like always spotlighting other people, right? Um, that was the main one, if I'm honest. That was the main one, is like somehow I was finding these ways to put myself back in line.
Mm,
I was
mm,
finding ways to avoid showing up on camera by myself and standing
mm,
just on my own message, right?
mm,
I could do it on stage for some reason, but like, IG lives, podcast interviews, like anything where it's just me showing up to share, it was freaking me out on some level. And there was like a
mm,
block. So, can you talk to me a little bit about that? Because you're a certified trauma aware nervous system practitioner. And those
mhm,
times where my marketing person is like, you need to do more video, do some IG lives, do this, do that. My whole
mm,
body was like, oh, hell no.
mhm.
Why would you say that is? Can you speak into that a little bit?
Well, first we have to address who you are. You are a feminine being. You are a feminine woman. You are a feminine leader.
Mhm.
And so when we understand who we are, then we understand the process in which we are meant to co-create in, which means as feminine leaders, we are to go internal before we go external.
Mhm.
And when we are doing and pushing and striving and trying to make it happen
Yes.
without going internal first, we are literally overriding and bypassing our system and any potential um, internal wounding or unconscious crippling beliefs, programming, conditioning that does not want to be seen or doesn't want to be known or heard or is afraid of attack. So there's a few different approaches here. I like to say that we have these approaches or these experiences rather where we've either had our lived experiences or we have our ancestral lineages. And what I love about the science of epigenetics is it's backing up what the sacred texts have been saying. The sacred texts have been talking about generational curses. And, the Bible even talks about Jesus's lineage and it goes back 14 generations. Epigenetics shows that we can pass DNA down 14 generations. I love how science be catching up with all the sacred texts.
Yeah.
And so, meaning if there are fears in your lineage, in your bloodline around being heard as a woman, being seen as a woman, being powerful as a woman. So there's an element here of our feminine power and really owning that and embracing that and being embodied in that. But then we also have to look at lived experiences. Do you have any core wounds that have caused you to have an unconscious crippling belief that it's not safe to be seen, that it's not safe to be heard, that it's not safe to be witnessed in your power or your imperfection? And
Mhm.
so what we have to do is first look at which is which, and then that's when we go into the body and we start addressing it. And so I always go into the body first somatically. Soma in Greek means body. And so when I say somatic, I'm referring to the body. And we go into the body and we address the felt sense sensations that you are experiencing, any emotions, anything in the body that is holding on to tension, holding on to an emotion. And we work on massaging that and releasing that and slowly letting it go so we can start to recalibrate the nervous system back to its original nature of homeostasis, peace and ease. And then we go into the mind and we start doing the unconscious rewiring work and realigning your paradigm that is going to support that which you are trying to create. So say for instance, okay, it's time for me to boost my visibility inside of my work as a feminine leader. However, I feel cringe, or I go into freeze response, or I start distracting myself and getting busy and doing all these things that have nothing to do with what I said I was going to do.
Yeah.
We're going to go into the body, we're going to rewire those patterns in the mind. And what that is going to do is support you to take the aligned action to co-create that which you are envisioning to create.
I am obsessed with that explanation. And it's something I became aware of, but did not have the language or the science to back the process.
Yeah.
I feel everything in my body. I've become very in tune with myself. And so when I don't feel aligned, it's in my body. Usually,
Yeah.
like stress, tension, or fear will show up in my stomach, right? In my chest is more like resistance. It may not be fear, it may not be stress response, but just like resistance, like I'll kind of tighten up in my chest. And so different things show up in different places. And what I've learned to do primarily is just breathe through it and just pause, like give myself permission to just pause and try to sit with, where's that coming from? Like, what is this? And just by nature of my, I guess my personality, my mission, my tenacity, right? To like really make a mark and an impact in the world, I typically lean in even when it's extremely uncomfortable. But again, when it came to this really showing up like on video alone and like hiding still in certain areas, I was having a lot of trouble moving past that. And honestly, I don't even know fully what shifted. I literally woke up about 6 weeks ago after one of the full moons, not this past moon, which I think was I know it was during the Lionsgate portal, which was actually really powerful. But before that one, there was a full moon. And I just remember waking up and being like, it's time.
Yes.
Literally, something shifted overnight energetically. And I was like, it's time, let's go. So, so I identified that a lot of my fear, some of it I could definitely trace back to generational trauma. I mean, just by us being the color we are, there's generational trauma. But then a lot of it too is exactly what you said, like fear of being unsafe, showing up on camera and sharing raw, vulnerable parts of myself. And by nature too, I'm pretty private because I'm a Scorpio. So but yeah, I love that you speak to that. I would love for you to just share maybe some of the tools and techniques that you use to help women clear. I know I've heard of different modalities, but I'd love to hear some of them that you use.
Oh yeah. So somatic qigong, it's an ancient Chinese practice and approach that has been around for over 5,000 years before even yoga. I know a lot of people use yoga, but it's more ancient than that. I also use different forms of breath work, about 10 different types of breath work. And so it just depends on what exactly we're dealing with. Like I said, the artistry coming in of, do we need to have a more yin approach? And yin in Chinese is the feminine. Or do we need to have a more yang, vigorous approach, which is the masculine? And then tapping, EFT tapping, I use that as a tool as well. And yeah, those are just a few to name that I use for the process of working through the body, the nervous system, the unconscious, and really reconnecting women to their original nature. And I find it interesting when you mention being a woman and feeling unsafe, because there have been different studies where men and women are in the same room, and they'll have this exercise where they'll have anyone who has ever left their car to go to the store and immediately locate where their keys are and put them in their hand, raise their hand. All the women are raising their hand. And they have another question where they ask, have you ever walked outside and you just have this thought in the back of your mind to just observe and scan and make sure that the environment is safe? All the women raised their hand. And so the men were able to witness and see that women fundamentally and inherently have not felt safe just existing.
Yeah.
So now when you imagine putting yourself out there on a stage, putting yourself out there on a platform where you can literally be witnessed by billions of people, there's billions of people on these platforms online. There is an evolutionary coding inside of us innately that goes beyond lived experience and even beyond ancestral lineages that we're still adjusting. This modern era of technology and the internet is still very new to our systems. Our systems are still very primal. That's why we can go into flight or fight easier during certain experiences, because that primal mechanism in our brain kicks on to keep us safe so that we survive. And so we are still acclimating as feminine beings in this modern era with so much exposure. We have more exposure now than we probably ever have. And so our system is scanning that and like, what the heck? This is danger, danger, danger. Don't go. Don't do that.
Right.
And this is why we need different types of approaches. And really, it's about cultivating deeper self-awareness, our consciousness, our presence, so that we can take back our self-command and be self-contained inside of our feminine power and say, no, I'm safe. This is actually not a threat to my survival. This is not a threat to my life. This is not a threat to my livelihood. And so I just want to share, and I'm not somebody who just went and got all these credentials and speaking, on some high horse pedestal. I've had to walk this thing out myself. I've been on stages in front of hundreds of people and was having a panic attack before I got on that stage. I have had video content online go viral, and over 500,000 people saw it. And I had to turn the comments off because I couldn't take the attacks that were coming my way. So I'm not speaking as someone who's just got certified and got trained and read a book. I've had to walk this thing out myself. I know what it feels like for myself personally to feel this very real sensation in my body that I am in danger and I'm not safe. And I'm still here showing up. And so this is proof in the pudding.
Girl, I was going to ask you that if you had had that experience. And I think my question follow-up to that would be, did you have these tools before you were attacked?
This is what led me to the tools.
Okay.
So in 2015 is when my internet journey really started to take off. I was on, in fact, actually before that, 2012, I was featured on hair blogs for being a natural hair care specialist at the time. And those pieces were going viral on like Essence magazine, like big platforms. And so that was the first time I started noticing exposure in that way as an adult. As a youth, I experienced exposure. I was a track and field star. I would be on the front cover of the newspaper when the newspaper was still a thing. I was on the news. And so I started having experiences with exposure most of my life, but it intensified with my awareness of what was happening somatically in my body through womanhood and adulthood. And then in 2015, I launched my blog, which has been retired since then. 2016, I launched a trauma memoir, which has been retired since then. And that is what catapulted me on stages.
Okay.
And I also was on the front cover of a magazine during that time because of the work I was doing in the trauma field. And I remember during that time, I was petrified and terrified to be on the front cover of that magazine because I didn't know who was going to see it. I didn't know what they were going to say. I didn't feel safe. And it was crazy because everyone around me was celebrating me. They said, this is amazing. This is great. Oh my gosh, like you're blowing up. And I was like, no, I just want to do my work. I just want to do good work.
Retreat.
So I found one of my first, she's a faith-based spiritual mentor who introduced me to tapping back in 2017. And that's when we started working on the beliefs that I had around what it means to be on these stages and on the media. I was on NPR. I mean, I was on big platforms, and my system was like, like freezing. I was just terrified.
Mhm.
Then the social media of I'm going to take this more seriously because I was doing more in person, like lots of
Yeah.
retreats, getting exposure through the media that way, and also the stages with the public speaking. And I started taking social media more seriously. In 2020 is when I started having more viral content. We were in the pandemic, and
Right.
so people had more time on their hands, and content started going viral. I got a opportunity to, have you ever heard of the Beyond Meat brand?
No. Oh, yes, yes, yes. I love that meat.
So I had an opportunity to do a commercial with them,
Oh, wow.
and it went viral on the internet. So
Oh,
I'm
geez.
constantly getting exposure to attack, attack, attack. And I'm like, oh my God,
So
I
it's
just
like
did,
it
I was
wasn't
like,
an unjustified fear. It wasn't an unjustified fear. Like you would be visible and then it would happen.
it would happen. And then 2021, I had some experience inside of a business mastermind that were deeply hurtful. And during that time, I also had a few different pieces of content go viral with 500,000 people on there commenting. And so that's when I started to slowly like turn it down,
Go back.
turn down feminine power, turn down the radiance, turn down the magnetism, and said, no, no more, no more, I'm done. And eventually I came across more modalities. My Qigong Sifu came into my life, and I've been with him ever since, and breath work and all these other modalities that have supported me to feel really sovereign in my beingness, so that even if the attacks inevitably come, I know how to hold myself in the midst of that without allowing those attacks to overtake me.
Wow. Yes, I felt all of that. I felt it's like you put words to some of my biggest fears in the past, not in the anymore. Obviously, I'm stepping into it now, but I
Yeah.
also was thinking while you were speaking, I'm like, okay, so yeah, divine timing, because in the event that these things start to happen for me, I now have a resource, which is so beautiful. I feel held and I don't even need to be held yet.
And what I discovered, Patrina, was that women like ourselves who are going out here, and I mean, it takes courage to do
Really?
what we're doing. It takes courage. And there are women out here probably listening to this who have a calling in their belly, and they know that they're supposed to be out here doing their work.
Yeah.
And I believe God fortifies us through these fires. They're like initiations into our sovereignty so that we can
Mhm.
then walk with these other women and tell them, hey, I've been there, done that. And this is how you're going to get through it. I'm going to walk with you and we're going to do this together.
Yeah.
And I think that's how we're going to co create a new world, because it's no longer going to be just, nothing wrong with experts. I think they're great, but we need more embodied people who have walked through the fire and they've been purified as gold and they have a diamond spirit, meaning they're indestructible and you cannot knock them down. You cannot take us out.
Yeah, it's true. We don't die, we multiply. It's funny. Yeah, it's just yes. I just want to thank you for everything you've walked through because you then create the path for other women and you're able to hold them in that space. And I know that I've done similar in different realms and that there is an extent for which I'm able to support women, but this is one of the things I love about collaboration, partnership, connecting with people because our gifts complement each other's. There are
Mm-hmm.
things that you do that I'm like, wow, that's insane. That's amazing, right? That's so needed. And then there's pieces that I bring. A lot of
Yeah.
the pieces that I bring when I'm working with people is yes, the experience and being able to speak from the place of being where they are and moving through it and I didn't die, right? That's my favorite saying, and I didn't die. Um,
Exactly.
but the other piece, I think probably one of my primary tools without me even recognizing this until this conversation is my neurolinguistic programming background and the
Yeah.
reframe. Like the reframe is serious. And
Oh,
I
yeah.
used to be called delusional because I would reframe things so much. And I still reframe things all the time because it's a survival tactic, right? It's how I stay in a state of abundance always by reframing. And it
Yeah.
becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy,
Yes.
know? So, talk to me a little bit about sovereign, no, not sovereign, supernatural is what you call it, supernatural success. Tell me a little bit about what that means and how that manifests in our lives, ours, because I'm one of your ideal clients.
Well, first it starts with embodying the supernatural woman.
Mm,
And to me, the supernatural woman is our original nature. And by original nature, what I mean is who we are to our core before we were programmed and conditioned out of it. And so we're returning back as like this pillar, but connecting to the heavens above and the earth below, and feeling this quality of I'm not alone. Even even around people, it's I'm not alone because God is within me, the divine is in me, the creator is in me. And when we are supercharged and plugged into that, that's where our guidance comes from.
mm.
And from there, we will receive messages, we will receive guidance, we will receive prophetic insights that cause us to take steps towards something that can collapse time, that can get us into a room that we could have never gotten into by ourselves. For instance, I'll give you an example. My husband had a connection with someone. And by my marriage, I connected with this person, and she hosted an event where, oh, what's the actor's name? Jason, is it Jason Seaver? He was the voice of
Oh,
Lion King and Michael Jackson,
okay.
and then there was other people from Hollywood in this room. She was hosting an entrepreneurial panel, and she invited me to be one of the speakers. So I'm in the room with people from Hollywood. Pitch for it. It was a paid speaking opportunity, and it was exposure to a bigger network. And I'm thinking to myself, this is a God thing.
Yes,
This is me being embodied as the supernatural woman. I'm receiving guidance. I'm listening to the yeses. I'm walking in alignment with that. People pitch for stuff like that.
exactly.
I didn't pitch for that. So that's one example. Um, I'm working with women right now where some of the things we're working on restoring their marriage. I mean, one client, she was on the cusp of divorce.
Hmm.
And after one session with me, we do in person and online, one in person session with me, and her marriage shifted overnight.
Yeah, I could see
On
that.
the cusp of divorce, and
Yeah,
overnight, they're
yeah,
back in honeymoon phase
I could
and
see it.
better than the beginning. So, those are just a few examples of there's something that happens when we are in our full alignment
Yep.
in godly power, hearing from God, receiving. I like to use the word God. I know everybody has their different,
Yep.
word, but I use that a lot. And being an embodiment of that
Mm-hmm.
and using that as a framework in our lives and our relationships and in our leadership. And so all the opportunities I had described, the visibility that I had, like the Beyond Meat and being on stages in front of hundreds of people, I've never pitched for anything I've ever received. I didn't pitch to be on the front cover of a magazine. I have not pitched for any of the paid speaking opportunities I had.
Yeah.
I did not go on a dating app to meet my beloved. I Everything that I've experienced in my life, there was no efforting in the way that we're conditioned to
Yes.
effort.
Yes, I resonate so much with all that you said. And it's the same for me. I call it embodied abundance, right?
Mm,
So it's embodied abundance. And when you're aligned, and it literally, you said it almost the way I said it, where you're grounded in the earth, but you're so connected to the heavens,
yeah,
right? There's just this clear path of energy that flows through you.
yeah,
Um, that's how I've lived my life for a long time, and things do attract to me. So what's interesting is that I came out of a partnership pretty recently where one of the things that they were looking to do was to get more speaking engagements and opportunities, for visibility. And that was part of what I had taken on, like to be in the community for. Um, and it felt so out of alignment because I really realized that I've never had to like go work or seek or pitch for opportunities. They've always attracted to me because of
yeah,
who I be, and
Yes.
rooms that I end up in, which is what you talked about, and me just listening, being connected with
Yes.
source and listening. And so
Yes.
that partnership started to feel out of alignment and I exited. And it was actually days after that that I woke up and was like, it's time, let's go. And that was just one of the things that had to kind of fall to the wayside. And in order for me to step really fully back into my work and my mission. So talk
Mm.
to us about the listening, because I know that when you're living in embodied abundance, the listening is probably the most important thing.
Yeah. To me, this is where you have to embody a supernatural woman way of being. It's a lifestyle, it's a devotion. And it's not something you check off a to-do list. It's not something that run across Chat GPT. Yes, I did. I had to go there. Okay.
Might as well. I call Chat GPT my marketing assistant and my
I
researcher.
love Chat
I
GPT. It's
love
my
it.
assistant.
But the ideas have to come from you, the inspiration, the
Yes,
impact, the inspiration, all of that has to come from you in order for that to assist.
exactly. Exactly. So there's a level of devotion
Yeah.
that the way I can to create an analogy, because I was a Division I track and field collegiate scholarship athlete before I had my son. It's high performance in the spiritual realm. Like you have to be on it. There is no days go by and you haven't been sitting in stillness and practicing presence and clearing out your vessel daily. And when I say clear out your vessel, I'm not just talking about taking a poop. I'm talking about clearing out the accumulations of emotions and energies that we collect all day long just by lifing.
Uh-huh. And how do you
And
do
so
that?
there has to be a devotion day in and day out,
Yes.
because that's how our hearing is not. We have filters over our ears where now we're starting to hear their scripture that says there will come a day where people only have itching ears and they only want to hear what they hear. Meaning, what filter are you listening through? Are you listening through your emotions? Are you listening through your ego? Or are you listening from a pure space of God, guide me, lead me, I'm ready, I'm here, I'm ready to receive?
Mm-hmm. I love it. I love it. And I have not thought about it in that way as far as clearing out, but I do have my rituals daily
Yeah.
for really getting reconnected so that I can hear. And then
Yeah.
also, as I'm taking in information throughout the day, I'm always filtering. And some things, if I'm not sure, I just kind of put it to the side until I can go back to it and reflect. I'm one of these big, like, note in the phone,
Oh,
random shit just gets dropped into my phone and I revisit it later to just kind of sit with it or develop it. Yeah, that's one of
well,
my,
you saw how when we started, I said, "Do you mind if we, before we press record, that I write something down?"
yes, yeah. Before you lose it, right?
Yes. And
And
to me, that's part of devotion. I've had God wake me up at 3 o'clock in the morning, was like, get up and pray.
get
I
out
get
my
up.
head.
I
Yes,
get up. I don't, and it's something I'm working on with a client right now. She says, God keeps waking me up at 3, but I go back to sleep. And I said, get up.
yes,
Up. That is the feminine yin hour. That is the
yes.
best time for us to hear, because the sun has so much yang frequency and energy in it, meaning those of us, I don't know about you, but those of us who are energetically sensitive, I can feel that, oh, it's daytime because the busyness of the world is on. You can literally feel it, especially when you are doing this type of work over time. It just cultivates more of that sensitivity for our work that we do. And there's something beautiful that happens when we are in the night hours still, in the morning or the middle of the night, some people might say. That to me is where my listening is the sharpest, but it's not convenient
No,
to get up at 3 in the morning and pray and sit in stillness.
yes. Or write the download in your phone or on a tablet or so it's funny because before you said that, I was going to share that I had this experience yesterday, right? And I have it often, but I just had this experience yesterday. With this big shift that's happened, one of the things that I'm manifesting is rather than just purchasing homes to live in, I've had 5 residential homes. Great, I know how to do that. I'm in the season of investment properties. And I've
Yes.
been manifesting exactly the streets that I want these properties to be on, right? And within like a 3-4 block radius. And so a couple days ago, an opportunity came to me without trying for a home, a condo that's being sold right on the beach, exactly on the road that I wanted to buy. And so I pitched a very creative offer that then got accepted, right? And so, as part of this, initially I was like, okay, I'll just purchase this first one, in my name, blah, 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 blah. Well, Spirit woke me up yesterday at 3 o'clock in the morning, of course, because it's always between 3 and 4, and was
Yeah.
like, go down and file your DBA for I'll just share. It's called Prosperity Partners Investments.
Oh, I love that.
I've had the name for a long time, but I hadn't taken steps because I was like, well, until it materializes, then I'll take the steps. But yesterday, Spirit was like, no, go get the DBA today. And so I did. And I went, and it took no time at all. And probably within 15 minutes, I had the official paper in hand for the DBA, which now I can go get a bank account. I can go get my LLC or do whatever I decide to do next. But just
Yeah.
the fact that the listening was there, and
Yeah.
most important, not just hearing, but taking action on what you're being guided to do,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And now who knows what else is going to open up because I listened and I said yes.
The floodgates. That's what
Floodgates
opened.
are open, baby. I like my titties. I like to shake them.
It's all good.
Okay, so for women listening, all of our beautiful ladies that are listening, what would you say to the woman who feels torn between their external expectations or their external realities? Because sometimes we create these realities that aren't really authentic to ourselves, but then we become imprisoned by them, right? So, what would
Yes.
you say to that woman who's torn between her external world that she's created and her internal longing?
Mm. You have to have deeper trust that there is a preordained destiny and path for you that looks different than what you are witnessing with your physical eyes. And so this is where you have to connect with your faith eyes, your inner sight. And you have to see that the reality you're experiencing right now was created yesterday and the days prior. It's not permanent, and you don't have to remain stuck in it, but you have to activate that inner faith sight and deeper trust to know that tomorrow can look different and that you're devoted to becoming the woman who's experiencing that. And to me, it's not about this new age manifestation stuff that we see. This is not about name it and claim it and fake it till you make it. This is not that. To me, this is where you start looking at, where am I not being true to myself? Where am I being inauthentic? Where am I performing? Where am I pretending? Where am I masking? Where am I holding myself back? Where am I showing up in codependent ways and being radically honest with yourself?
Mm-hmm.
And it's not easy to do this. As soon as you asked that, Patrina, I was thinking about my marriage. There was a season in my marriage, my husband and I have been together for 11 years now, but there was a season where we were on the cusp of the D word.
Yeah.
And we literally sat across from each other at our kitchen table with tears in both of our eyes, talking about, we don't know if we can do this anymore,
Mm-hmm.
because we couldn't get past that moment, that we were in deep pain. We felt disconnected for so long, and we could not see the end in sight.
Mm-hmm.
And in that moment, we decide, like the late Maya Angelou said, just try love just one more time. Just try just one more time. So just try life one more time. Try love one more time. Try your dreams one more time. Try your leadership one more time. Try your vision one more time. It's trust.
Yeah.
And knowing that something is being cultivated within you, something is being refined in you, something's being fortified in you
Mhm.
through the trials, through the tests, through the challenges. It's not there to uh, break you down. It's there to make you that diamond spirit, as I said, indestructible.
Yes.
And as a result of that season that we navigated some years ago, we are more deeply connected now than ever. I mean, I can't even tell you the last time we had an argument.
Yeah.
And it's not we're bypassing and we don't have challenges or discussions. It's just the way we navigate life is so much differently. We have so much joy and playfulness and laughter and closeness and pleasure. It if the me then saw the me now, she'll be like, what?
Yeah. Well, I think it's getting through hard things like that and
Yeah.
choosing each other and recommitting and having more tools that helps
Mhm.
you to become the new version of your coupling or the new version of yourself, depending on the
Yeah.
situation, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
with that
I
said,
had to
oh,
really
sorry.
sit with myself and look at how was I showing up as a wife and be honest where I was dropping the ball and look at where
Mhm.
was I expecting him to create my joy rather than contribute to my joy. Because sometimes we do that. We think our beloved is supposed to create our joy when they're really just there to contribute to it and
Yeah.
co-create, but we create our joy. So
Yeah.
those are just that's just an example that I can, think off the top of my head that came through about my own personal experience of like, yeah, I remember being in that.
It's a beautiful example, and I believe it's actually a very common challenge that women have. That's probably an area where many women are on the fence, right? I hear it all the time. People are like, oh, relationship is so hard, right? And there's this thing where like people are divorcing their spouse in their head every day. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't have that experience. I don't live that experience with my
Yeah.
partner. Like, we're committed, but we have also this mindset of, and we said this from day one when we started dating, that I'm not really concerned. Like, yes, I'm looking for my life partner, but I'm not really concerned with that long-term vision per se. Like, it's there, but I'm like about the today. How is this
Exactly.
relationship today? How are we communicating today? And am I choosing you tomorrow? Because that's
Hmm.
the real question, right?
Exactly.
So the commitment isn't like, oh, we're married, oh, this, and that. The commitment is to choose each other every
Exactly.
day. And in order
Exactly.
to do that, sometimes we've got to take accountability, like you said, and make adjustments, right?
Yeah.
And just show up as a new person every day. So,
Exactly. It's really this for me, the supernatural woman, it's a daily walk. It's not like you said, I love that you shared that projection out into the future. It's
yeah,
day by day. A
present.
day, every day is day one.
Yes, presence, absolutely. And I even go as far as to say in every moment, in every hour, like you're
Mhm.
creating yourself and your reality in every moment of your life. And I don't think people really give that enough honor and enough attention. So when
Yeah.
I'm having a stinking thought in my head, I'm creating a reality. I need to kind of check myself as quickly as possible, shift that thought, and also shift the actions that I take because of that thought. Right.
Yeah.
So it's
And
very
there's another
in-
aspect of it's not just about like creating our reality, but also how do we want to experience our reality? Do
yes.
I want to have my experience in a place of pain and suffering and or do I want to experience my experiences from a place of peace and ease and joy and gratitude and abundance and bliss? And so it's like, how do I actually want to experience my experiences?
Yes. All right. So we could probably go on forever. So I do want to ask one more questions. I typically try to keep my interviews between like 40 minutes or less, 30 minutes or less, but hey, whatever.
Okay,
We're
it's okay.
rolling. But I do want to ask you this. I think it's very important for women to hear your answer. So when it comes to that space where they're untangling their physical world from their, inner longing, a lot of times what stops women from making big changes in their life is finance. So how
Yeah.
do you help women, or what would you say to them regarding maybe a first step for untangling that really it's fear around making changes in regard to finance, and that could be career, that could be relationship, that could be pretty much anything.
So there is the supernatural and then there's the practical
Right.
answer that I have. The practical answer is to look at your finances.
Yes. Yes, that's always
Look
a
at the
good start.
numbers.
Yes.
Yeah, look at the numbers, what's coming in, what's going out, and comb through it with
Yes.
clarity, with that accountability, and looking at where is there overspending, where is there unnecessary spending, and there's a beautiful part of this process that can support you with the cultivation of your evolution and self-actualization, because you can probably notice patterns. Oh, I spend a lot over in this
Mhm.
category. I spend a lot, and you start seeing your patterns. You're like, okay, now I can get curious. Every other Friday, I spend X amount of dollars in Neiman Marcus
Yeah.
or shop. Like, what's going on? Did I really need that, or was I triggered? Or so you can start looking at
Mhm.
it from that angle. The supernatural realm is to, again, go back to presence and start looking around and being grateful for what it is that's there.
Mhm.
And it's so simple and it's often overlooked. Going back to being grateful for the basics of life. I have a roof over my head. I have clothes on my back. I have food. I have a friend or a family member or a pet or whatever, and go back to gratitude for even the simplest, most mundane things in life, and let it snowball from there.
Thank you. That was such a beautiful explanation. And I agree 1000% with the looking at your numbers piece. And that's probably a whole podcast episode within itself because so many of us just don't look, don't
Yeah.
get involved in all of the things. But
Yeah.
I just want to show so much honor and appreciation for having you today. This was so amazing. And my whole body is lit up. And I know it's
Oh,
just the beginning for us.
yes.
So share with everyone how they can connect with you if they felt moved and compelled to connect after this podcast.
Of course. So I am on Instagram. You can go to the link in my bio, and there's an option to join my email community. And in my email community, I send newsletters and different writings. And sometimes I share when I'm having different experiences in person. And I'm actually about to start getting back out there myself with online offerings as well. And then sometimes I'm on Facebook. I kind of dibble in and out of Facebook, but Instagram, YouTube, Facebook are the main platforms you can find me on.
Yeah, I see you on LinkedIn as well.
Yeah, at one point I was all over the place, and I said, let me
Yes,
streamline and
yes.
condense it back down and simplify.
Same. Yeah, my main platforms now, LinkedIn has become one of them because a lot of the women we serve are on there.
Mhm,
LinkedIn, Instagram, those are really my two primaries. And then, of course,
mhm.
because of the podcasts and other things, there's the YouTube. And I keep getting pulled back into TikTok. I don't understand that damn TikTok, let me tell you, but it's all good. Like, I don't have
Yeah.
to understand it because I have a team, thank goodness. But anyways, so yes, connect with Cassandra. Wherever you connect with her, what I can tell you is your soul will be fed with every post, with every anything, any way that she shows up, your soul will be fed, just as
Oh,
it
thank
was
you.
today. So again, thank you so much. And for all of you listening, thank you. I honor you for joining us on another episode of Living Room Wisdom, where your story is your glory. Come back next week for more tools, tips, inspiring stories on how you can take your next steps into embodied abundance. And we'll see you soon.